Hey everyone, we're dipping back into Hamza's den because an ex-Muslim called his most recent show and asked about the Quranic passage which says that the Jews worship Ezra as the son of God. So let's just get straight into it.
I've got this guy. This guy, you'll enjoy this guy. This guy is a ex-Muslim. So ex-Muslim, I'm going to give you a minute to make your point, claim, question, whatever, yeah?
Yes, thanks for taking me on, Hamza.
I'm not going to humor it for long if you start showing disingenuousness or a lack of intelligence, though, just so you know, yeah?
Understood.
I mean, a lack of intelligence, that's really rich coming from Hamza.
Because that's why I kicked you last time. One second.
No, you kicked him last time and the time before because you can't handle it. Now, for those who are new to the channel, the ex-Muslim gentleman who's come on is called Afif, and he's been a bit of a thorn in the side of Hamza on a couple of occasions, and I have done a previous review of when he went on to Hamza's den. I'll put that in the description of this video because it's worth taking a look at. Anyway, let's carry
on. You coming from work, man, or are you getting dressed up for us?
Oh, he's dressed for the show, man. This guy's in front of the mirror. Got it.
Yeah, and you know what an audience to be dressed up for. I mean, we've got Daniel Haqiqatjou and Jake the Muslim Metaphysician. So 2 imports from America to really ruin your day.
Can I start?
Yes, go.
I'm an ex-Muslim atheist, and I have a YouTube channel as well. I just published my book called My Case Against Islam, and it's available on Amazon. I just have a few.
I just want to stop it there to say, those of you who know Afif from my previous videos or through being subscribers of his channel, you know that he's a very polite person, and a few people have given him criticism about him being too polite going on, but he's just managed to advertise his new book on a show which is going to get like 40,000 views, and they haven't actually already used that as an excuse to kick him off. Now, I think that comes as a benefit of him being that polite that he's managed to slickly insert that in there and get away with it. So well done, Afif.
A few questions regarding some mistakes I believe that I've seen in the Quran that I was hoping that you guys would be able to answer. The first one is regarding the monotheism of Jews. As you know, Jews are strictly monotheistic, just like Muslims are. And the first commandment of the Hebrew Bible is do not take any gods before me. But there's a verse in the Quran, Surah Tawbah, verse 30, which says, وَقَالَتِ الْيَهُودُ أُزَيْرٌ إِبْنُ اللَّهِ وَقَالَتِ النَّصَارَى الْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ اللَّهِ ذَلِكَ قَوْلُهُمْ بِأَفْوَاهِهِمْ. That Jews say that Ezra is the son of Allah, while Christians say that Isa is the son of Allah. And what I want to point out is that Jews do not believe that Ezra is the son of Allah. So that's a factually incorrect statement. And if I go up to a Jew and tell him, you know, stop worshiping Ezra, there's only one Allah, then that he'll be the most confused person, because it's like going up to a Muslim and saying,
all right, your waffle's done.
Yes.
Well, it wasn't really a waffle. I mean, it was a very good introduction and a good question to ask, because I have seen this before and I've never really seen a good answer from Muslims, and there isn't a good one from these guys either.
Right. Just before we start, do you believe Allah is the God of Abraham?
Dear, oh dear. I mean, I cannot believe he's gone into this. This is completely irrelevant.
I believe Allah was adapted into the God of Abraham, but I believe that he was initially the God of the pagan polytheists that were there.
So you don't believe Allah is the God of Abraham?
Originally, no, but currently, yes.
Right. And what do the Jews think?
The Jews, it depends, but my understanding is that Jews believe in Yahweh as God, and Allah is a different God, and Allah was the God that was worshipped by the pagan polytheists. There might be a Jew here and there, or you might be able to quote a Jew that says that Allah is the God of Abraham, but my understanding based on the research I've done is that Allah is a totally separate God, and has nothing to do originally.
Allah is just...
Right, I'm just going to pause it here to point out that Hamza is deliberately derailing the conversation with this absolute nonsense. Now, on the previous video review I did when Afif went on Hamza's den, Hamza got into this big beef about this idea that Jewish people consider Allah to be the same God as they worship. And he's got this stupid little TikTok video of a rabbi basically saying it. And he thinks that this is just like the supreme authority. Now, although the question is irrelevant to this video, it's worth highlighting because I actually went through that video, which he's got of the rabbi, which he desperately wants to play, but he doesn't in this, which shows that the same rabbi is absolutely cutting Muslims to pieces and cutting Islam to pieces. But that section is edited out of the video. So, I mean, Hamza, again, is trying to refer to this stupid, like, TikTok style video of a rabbi, like as if this somehow legitimizes Islam, and is as if this means that like all Jews think this. And he's so obsessed with this. And the only reason he's bringing this up is, one, to derail it, and two, because he's obviously still pissed at a thief for having brought it up the last time he was on the show.
It's not the God of Abraham, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. I believe so.
Okay, let me just devastate that before we continue, if you don't mind.
Yeah, keep holding things up when it's got nothing to do with the actual question at hand, which is about the Quran claiming that Jews think that Ezra is the son of God.
I'm just trying to find the rabbi. Have you guys seen this video with the rabbi?
Oh, I've seen it, and I've done some detailed analysis of it. It's really something you shouldn't be using, my friend.
Yes, sir.
No.
I've seen it.
You've seen it?
Yes.
So you've seen it?
Yeah, you know he's seen it, so why are you bringing it up? He's playing dumb.
Which, a video of a rabbi saying the greatest rabbi of this generation, Moshe Feinstein, says that Allah is the same God as theirs, and you're standing here saying that they don't believe that.
I don't.
You're a numpty. Anyway, continue.
No, he's not a numpty, and you're just using that as an excuse to have a go at him because you always get triggered by a thief when he comes on your channel. So I just think this is really childish, but a thief just smiles through it, which I think is an excellent way to deal with it.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, guys, go ahead and take it away.
Go ahead, Jake, or if you prefer me to.
So just worth saying that Hamza has delayed it by, what, 2-3 minutes, wasting his time with this crap.
Respond.
Well, so I don't know what his point is then. Is he admitting that Jews believe in one God? I don't understand.
So again, why is he going back to that? It's like they have to fill up the clock with this absolute garbage that's completely irrelevant just to try and throw him off. But again, Afith is pretty experienced at doing this now, so he sticks to his guns.
He's saying about Ezra.
I mean that they worship the same God as us.
No. I'm trying to say that Ezra is not. Jews do not worship Ezra.
Where does it say anything about worshiping?
There's a verse in the Quran, Surah Tawbah, verse 30, which says, وَقَالَتِ الْيَهُودُ عُزَيْرٌ ibn Allah, that Jews say that Uzair is the son of Allah, and Christians say that Masih is the son of Allah. But the problem is that Jews are strictly monotheistic, so I believe it's a mistake that's in the Quran.
Yeah, but you just said worship.
Yes. Ibn Allah, like Uzair is the son of Allah.
Yeah, but where does it say anything about worship? You're saying that the Quran is claiming that they worshipped him. Where does it say in the Quran that they worshipped him?
I mean, if Allah is God and Uzair is the son of Allah, I think it doesn't say that explicitly, but it implies that they worship. So
yeah, I'd say it more than it implies it. It directly says it in terms of it's in a verse of the Quran, which is also referring to Christians saying that Jesus is the son of God. And clearly 99% of Christians, which are the Trinitarians, believe that Jesus is the son of God and therefore worship him. So yes, to have it in the same sentence, I'd say it's more than an implication that it can't be saying anything else other than they're worshipping him. But Jake, the fake bloody metaphysician, is doing what so many of these apologists do. They just focus on a particular word and say, well, it isn't directly said in the Quran, so what are you talking about? Just bullshit game playing.
why would they say Ezra is the son of Allah if they didn't want to worship him? Right?
No, but I'm saying you're making the claim. It's not even in the verse of the Quran that the Quran is claiming that the Jews are worshiping. So where are you getting this idea from? That's what
There's no other way to interpret it. You are just playing dumb on purpose.
you're saying it's implied. Yeah. How is it implied? All throughout the Bible, there's sons of God mentioned, but doesn't necessarily mean that they're worshiping those sons of God.
But it's in a verse where it's talking about Christians saying that Jesus is the son of God. So that's obviously what the Quran is alluding to. Otherwise, it wouldn't put those two things right next to each other. So again, you're just embarrassing yourself by doing this stupid gameplay.
Then why does it curse the Jews for saying that? In the same verse, it says, "Qatalahumullah," may Allah fight them.
Yeah, it's obviously saying that it's an incorrect belief, but
No, it's more than incorrect belief. Just like Muslims will claim that worshipping Jesus, as the Christians do, is enough to send them to hell. It's putting that in that same category. As Afif says, he's cursing them for it. This isn't just saying that you're factually incorrect. This is saying this is something that's going to put you in the hellfire.
You said that the Quran is saying that the Jews worshipped him.
Right. So how is it an incorrect belief if it's commonly just said that those are that prophets are the sons of Allah? Because I think the point you're trying to make is that it's not saying real son, it's just saying it in a metaphorical sense. But I believe, based on my understanding of the verse,
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I'm just saying that just because it's saying that they say that he's the son of Allah, it's not entailed from that he's therefore worshipped.
Yes, it is, because if you're saying he's a son in the kind of way that Christians are talking about, which you've essentially just admitted there, then you're basically saying they think Ezra is God by being son of God. So therefore, it automatically entails that he be worshipped. Stop lying.
So why does Allah curse them for saying that?
Because it's an incorrect belief. It's wrong. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't have sons. Period.
Yeah, you could curse someone to hellfire for making a mistake. Yeah, that makes sense.
So you're saying that
So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they worship him or whatever. The status that they are giving to Ezra is what is being critiqued.
Of course it matters whether they worship him. I mean, that's the whole point with Islam when they talk about Christians, saying you're not supposed to worship a prophet as the son of God, which is what they say Christians are doing. So therefore, this is a hell-worthy trespass. So what the hell are you talking about?
Right, but what I'm trying to say is that they don't give that status to Ezra. Like, we know that Christians give that status to Isa by saying that Isa is the son of Allah and they worship him. But Jews, like, I live in a Jewish town, and I've never heard any Jewish person say that Ezra is the son of Allah. Like, that seems to be that teaching that's not in part of Judaism.
Rabbi.
Yeah, it is just basically wrong. Let's acknowledge that it's not what Jews believe.
Tovia Singer said there could well have been Jews who did do this. See, this is the problem.
Right, that's a load of rubbish. And right, Hamza and Daniel Haqiqatjou he's gonna pipe in and sort of use the same apologetic later in the video. They're gonna try to imply that or claim that Jewish people were polytheistic at one point, which is true if you look at the history, but nowhere is there any evidence that there were polytheists amongst Jewish people at the time of Muhammad. So this is irrelevant, but I'll get into that in a bit more detail in a second.
Christians have, I mean, you're an atheist. You haven't got a dog in the fight, mate. But they always think it's their version that's being spoken about. Yeah, they always think it's their version of Christianity or Judaism as such, which is being referred to in the Quran. Well, if you read the Quran, Allah is dealing with all of them. You understand?
It doesn't say there was a Jew who said that. It says Jews in general say that Ezra is the son of Allah, just like Christians say that.
Just like it says that some worship Mary. That's not all Christians.
Well, I don't know any Christians that worship Mary. I mean, I know that gets thrown at Catholics, but they don't actually worship Mary. So what Christian is he talking about there? I haven't got a clue.
Right.
All right.
Do you think I can go on to my second question?
No, we're going to read this question first.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
You're going to concede it's a stupid question, and then we can move on. Go on.
No, bullshit is it a stupid question. You haven't given any kind of satisfactory answer, but you're just doing this bullying tactic as you usually do. First of all, you insult someone for asking a perfectly legitimate question, and then you try and browbeat them from any further proper conversation about it. And this is supposed to be your open panel for critique.
Daniel.
I was going to say that the claim that Jews are monotheistic, this is a contested issue academically. There are many examples of Jewish traditions that were polytheistic in nature or henotheistic. Like, this is an accepted fact within biblical studies, within Judaic studies.
Yeah, now that is the case. And if you look at the history of Judaism, it had polytheistic roots back from the Jewish ancestors, the original Canaanites and I think other areas. Yes, they came from a polytheistic tradition where they had a pantheon of gods. And over the centuries, Yahweh became elevated in status until he became the one true God, the monotheistic God of Judaism. But the point is, as far as I know, and I'm not saying I'm an expert, so it is possible there is some obscure sect which has lasted longer than this, but as far as I could tell when I looked this up, the idea of polytheism in Judaism was pretty much eradicated about 1,000 years before Muhammad was around. It's like possibly even longer. It's like, you know, 5th century BC or something, when there was still any significant number of Jewish polytheists. So Daniel is really muddying the water here by trying to pretend that, oh yeah, around, you know, there was loads of Jewish polytheists around in Muhammad's time, when, as far as I'm aware, there is no fucking evidence of that.
So this is not even like a very strong initial claim or assumption that you're.
Yeah, it is a very strong claim, because the point is, if this was supposed to be a revelation that Muhammad had, first of all, you know, why is it coming down in a time when there's no evidence there were any Jews who had polytheistic beliefs? So it is a strong claim, and you're obfuscating and trying to muddy the issue.
Making that Jews are monotheistic, therefore the Quran is incorrect. Academics actually say, non-Muslim academics say, that there are many Jewish traditions, and the evidences of this are in different places, including in the Bible. And you can even...
Yeah, so no, he hasn't cited any particular academic who has said this, so we can't actually go up and check, because I'm sure there are academics who are very knowledgeable on the period of the early origins of Judaism, but he's not going to cite anyone, because then you could go and look and you say, well, yeah, they're talking about 500 BC. They're not talking about in the 7th century. They're not talking about Jews living in Arabia who Muhammad would have come into contact with.
And go to the Bible today, like any particular translation, like just go to like the Standard Revised International Version, NSRV version, and it'll talk about how, for example, Psalm 82 in the Bible talks about like a council of gods. I'll read you the verse right here.
Well, so what? I mean, again, anyone who has even a rudimentary understanding of the history of Judaism, yes, will know that it has polytheistic roots that changed over time. It's completely irrelevant to what we're talking about.
This Psalm 82:1. God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. So,
yeah, and again, I mean, that verse, yes, I would say, as somebody who's not religious, I would say, yes, that's probably is a representation of some of those earlier beliefs that sort of made it into Jewish and Christian scripture. If you go to religious Christians and Jews, they will say, well, this divine council, they're not actually gods in the way that, you know, Jehovah is God. They're sort of, I don't know, like angelic kind of entities, that kind of thing. So, but this just seems like, on the one hand, a distraction, and also a way to sort of try and have a dig at the Bible, but it's got nothing to do with the actual question.
So it's referring to multiple gods in Psalm 82 verse 1. So this claim that, and so based on this and other verses, academics claim that, well, this is a remnant of a previous polytheistic or henotheistic version of Judaism.
Yeah, 1,000 years before Muhammad, so completely irrelevant to this conversation.
So this is just the assumption that Judaism is monotheistic and is this kind of monolith. That's false.
Yeah, and that's not his assumption. What he's saying is that Jews around the time of Muhammad were monotheistic, and they had been for a very long time. So for the Quran to be addressing Jews as if they're going around saying that Ezra is the son of God and that they're not monotheists is incorrect.
Yeah. And by the way, I just want to add, do you know who Ezra was, the Ezra of the Quran that's referring to?
Completely irrelevant, absolutely irrelevant to the actual problem that this Quranic verse represents. So another distraction.
Do you know anything about him?
I don't know anything about him. I just know that he was a prophet in Islam.
No, he's not a prophet. What are you talking about?
Okay, then maybe I don't know about him.
Yeah, so again, Jake is trying to look like he's intelligent. You can see he's looking stuff up about Ezra. You can see by the way he's looking. and he's going to use that to try and make himself look more intelligent, to try and make a thief look foolish by this complete pointless distraction over, you know, okay, he's not a prophet, he was some great scribe in Jewish tradition, etc., as if that matters at all to the critique that a thief is bringing.
Maybe you can explain.
No, Ezra, if you look up the history, okay.
Yeah, we all look up on Wikipedia, which is exactly what you're doing now, my friend. If you think you're fooling anyone, you're not.
And I'm reading right directly off a website here, that the Persian king sent Ezra to bring the Torah, the 5 books of the law of Moses, to the Jews. Modern scholars have claimed not only that Ezra brought the Torah to Jerusalem, but that he actually wrote it, and in doing so, Ezra created Judaism. Without Ezra, they say, Judaism would not exist.
So the fuck what?
So this historical figure of Ezra was much bigger than what you think, right? In fact...
Well, no, actually, that's kind of wrong, because Afif just said that he thought he was a prophet, which would actually raise him as a higher status in the eyes of religious people. So, but again, this is all completely irrelevant. The point is that Ezra was not worshipped as a son of God, which is what the Quran is claiming.
Even the Jews will admit this. They know who Ezra was. The Jews at the time of the prophet, peace be upon him, knew who he was. He was responsible for bringing and maintaining the Torah, okay, keeping the preservation of the Torah, as they claim. But we claim as Muslims that they corrupted it, okay? And if you look at the next verse, it's in line exactly with that, when it says that they have taken their scholars and monks as lords besides Allah. We don't believe, and just like I told you before, we don't believe, and if you look at the tafsir of the verse, there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ explains it. It's because they changed the laws that God actually sent down, and therefore they were taking their monks and their rabbis as legal authorities besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were,
which has got nothing to do with the claim that says Jewish people thought that Ezra was the son of God. This is all distraction from the initial part of the Quranic verse that we're talking about.
throwing the laws under the bus, okay? And this is essentially what Ezra did with Judaism. That's the context.
Well, no, this is what Muslims are claiming in some tafsir that you've read. But again, this is just completely irrelevant.
Of what it's speaking about. We know that basically all Christians and Jews don't go around actually worshiping their monks and their scholars, right? So,
well, I don't think any of them do. So again, what is the point in this?
It has a context in what it's talking about. It said they took them as religious authorities over and above.
Religious authority and worshipping someone as the son of God are two very different things.
Above the scripture that they actually possessed.
That's a fair point, but the question remains, is there any verse in the Hebrew Bible that says that, because it's a factual claim that Jews, just Jews, it doesn't say there was a group of Jews or there was a Jew, it just says Jews say that Uzair is the son of God.
No, it's speaking about a group of Jews. It's clearly speaking about a group of Jews, because there are Christians, there are all different groups of Christians that believe different things.
Yes, but like 99% of Christians are Trinitarians, or some huge number like that. It's a very tiny minority which that verse would not apply to. So to say Christians in that general way would be reasonable. To say Jews in that general way would be reasonable is not the case, because there's no evidence that any Jews actually believe this. The only sources that say this are Muslim ones. There's no real historical evidence that this is the case. But let's just assume that, you know, there were like this tiny odd group of Jews. It still would mean that this verse is terribly written and inaccurate, because to say the Jews in general next to where you're saying the Christians in general, talking about them believing that Jesus is the son of God, the implication is that this is a standard belief. Otherwise, you would put something like there are a few Jews, or are there, you know, a couple of Jews, some Jews, or something. You'd put some kind of qualifier, because otherwise the blatant implication is this is a standard belief amongst Jews. If it was just a small handful, You would need to put that in the text. Otherwise, the text looks wrong. The text is wrong by making this claim.
About Jesus, peace be upon him. It's the same thing. There are all different groups that believe things in terms of the Jews about Ezra. Or
then the Quran would need to specify that. If we had like somebody started a new religion and said, right, the Muslims say that Muhammad left a lineage that were to rule in his wake. If you made that claim, do you think these guys would say, oh yeah, that's an accurate statement? No, they wouldn't, because you're talking about what Shias believe, and they represent, what, 15% of Muslims. So would these hardcore Sunnis say that that was an accurate verse? Of course they wouldn't. They would say, hey, that's only a tiny group of people. For you to say that the Muslims believe this is a wrong statement. And this is the equivalent. And that's being generous, because there's no way there would even be 15%. There's no evidence there was even 1% of Jews had this belief.
any other religion. It's not making a claim that every single Jew that ever existed believed that Ezra was the son of God. And
it is implying that all, or certainly the vast majority, believed it. There's no way anyone's going to look at that verse and say, oh yeah, this is clearly talking about some tiny little cult, like, 12 people in the desert that Muhammad met. And then for some reason, Allah thought that it was good for all time to refer to that tiny little group as the Jews, assuming we even granted you that they existed in the first place.
And worshipped him, as you're claiming. Quran doesn't say that.
The Quran says the Jews, and therefore it's wrong.
Well, if there's a version... Yes.
Afif, do you believe the Bible's historically reliable?
Now, again, this is just Hamza jumping in with absolute irrelevancies once more, but we'll play it through.
That the Bible is historically reliable? Yes.
You're an atheist.
Yeah.
So what part? So you believe in the parting of the sea and all the miracles in the Bible, then?
No, it's just all mythology, literature.
So it's not. So it's not. Is it historically reliable? Do these things happen in history or not?
I mean, what the fuck has this got to do with anything?
Oh no.
So it's not historically reliable.
No.
So why are you trying to seek history in a book that you don't believe is historically reliable?
That's not what he's doing. I mean, where are you getting this from? He's looking at the Quran and he's saying this is a factually inaccurate statement made about the Jews, and you've got nothing but bullshit distractions.
No. I'm trying to expose what I believe to be a factual.
No. What you're trying to do is trying to use a standard you don't accept yourself. I don't understand that.
It's got nothing to do with what standard you use to accept what's historically reliable. He's talking about a specific claim which is wrong.
I just want to say, like, if there was a verse in the Quran that says that Muslims believe that Yahya was the son of Allah, then wouldn't that be a factually false statement based on the Quran and the Hadith?
Yeah, great question. Because how do you know? There might have been 3 Muslims who might have believed that.
He just explained to you about Ezra. What are you going on about now?
He's bringing up a really good example which shows that your apologetics are rubbish.
I knew about who Ezra was. If the Quran or if the Bible makes a claim, a unanimous claim, right, about Muslims, and says that all Muslims believe in X and we don't believe in it, then yeah, but that's not what's happening here. The Quran.
That's just a bullshit excuse. You know that when making a generalized statement about that, and as I say, compare it to Christianity, a vast majority of Christians, probably all the Christians that Muhammad would have come into contact with, would have had this belief as Jesus, the Son of God. It's not true of any Jews, and yet it's in there as if it's true.
Quran is saying that a group of Jews, and if you...
No, it's not now. See, you're adding that. I mean, this guy was complaining about saying, oh, well, it doesn't say worships, why are you adding that to it? And now you're adding a group of in front of Jews. I mean, what a double standard. You can add words to the interpretation when it suits you, but a thief can't add an interpretation which is blatantly obvious what it means. What a fucking hypocrite.
Look at the tafsirs, the explanation of our scholars, what they say about the verse. Every one of them is going to say it's talking about a group of Jews. It's not.
Yeah, but that's the tafsirs. That is them looking at it 200 years later and saying, oh shit, this doesn't make any sense. Or maybe 100 years later, depending whatever the tafsir you read. But the point is, yes, it's a bit like the Quranic Inheritance era, when it's like, oh damn, this doesn't actually work, this doesn't actually make sense when we look at reality, so we got to do like a patch up job afterwards. That's what those tafsirs are doing, because they know that it's not actually true, it doesn't fit with what Jews actually believe. So quoting the tafsirs doesn't help you.
Saying that all Jews believe that Ezra was the son of God.
This is just desperation.
Fair enough. Is it okay if I go on to my next question?
No.
Uh,
Bye-bye.
Yeah, so typically, you know, Hamza's got to finish it off by kicking him out because he's just got no grace, he's got no character, he's always got to have his little power moment at the end. But I would say, well done, Afi, for going on there. And again, you lasted pretty well. You're on there for like 12 minutes or something, so that's pretty good. And yeah, you made a point and you didn't get a serious answer. You got distractions about trying to claim it's a few Jews, even though there's no evidence any Jews believed this at the time. Even when there were polytheists, there's no evidence that Ezra was worshipped as the son of God. And all they've got is distractions. So yeah, I think this is an error in the Quran, one of many. And Hamza and Daniel and Jake had no real answer for it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. I'll have another review done in a couple of days. I will see you all in the next one.